Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of CLAT FUNDA, brought to you by the Institute of Law, Nirma University. Here is a session on CLAT English in which we would look at vocabulary and grammar extensively. I request you to consult the earlier sessions on reading comprehension, which briefly touched upon some of the linguistic hurdles encountered by CLAT aspirants. I am Dr. Binny and I teach English Communication and Literature at the Institute of Law, Nirma University. The episodes on reading comprehension, which are part of the CLAT Funda series, would guide you through several techniques for scoring well in the section on reading comprehension. The fourth episode focuses on the other components included in CLAT. A glance at the questions would tell you that your proficiency in English vocabulary and grammar would be assessed. Analyzing the latest question paper pattern and questions from previous years, let me explain to you what to focus on while you prepare for CLAT. Proficiency in English vocabulary is a significant milestone for your successful CLAT journey. The least efficient way for mastering English vocabulary is to learn by rote words and idioms from word lists. Plenty of such word lists are available in books and on the internet. The problem with lists of words is that you do not encounter these new and complex words contextually. As a result, you may forget the new words very easily. The best way is to have a consistent plan for learning new words. Read diverse content. One may, in the old-fashioned way, work with a dictionary. Write down the new words in a diary and prepare flashcards, possibly with pictures along with descriptions. One may also work with language apps, puzzles, or games. The point here is to learn words contextually so that they are retained in your memory more permanently. This approach facilitates easier retention of words. Make a note of synonyms and antonyms. I'll tell you why. You may not be familiar with the word diligent. Look at its synonyms: hardworking, determined, industrious, enterprising, and the like. Some of these words are more familiar to many of you than the word diligent. Once you associate a difficult word with its easier synonym, you will find it more easy to retain it in your memory. Same is the case with antonyms or opposites. Malevolent may not be a familiar word. Many of my students mispronounce the word as malevolent. You may not know malevolent, but benevolent is a familiar word. Once you encounter malevolent as a word opposite to benevolent, you would be able to remember it easily. That is how the knowledge of synonyms and antonyms enrich the learning of vocabulary. I would also like to remind you that be mindful of spelling and pronunciation when you learn these new words. Casually meeting new words is not enough. that vague familiarity has no lasting value. Closer bonds and associations matter. Try to welcome the new words wholeheartedly into the domain of your active vocabulary. Start using the new words cautiously, consciously, and frequently in your thinking, speech, and writing. Understand the nuances of words and word meanings. Revisit them. Revise your vocabulary lessons. In the case of words, more familiarity breeds everlasting love, and not contempt, as the proverb suggests. You may try to remember the new words by connecting them to familiar synonyms and antonyms. Try to use the new word in a sentence. Form associations and narratives around it. For example, bustling suggests a space packed with activity. Associate the word bustling with places like New York and Mumbai. Bustling cities. The word puerile means childish or immature. Don't you know a grown-up who could be infantile at times? Despite the danger of stereotyping your acquaintances, this method of forming associations could be quite useful in retaining words in your memory. I'll tell you how I remember the word scabrous, which has two seemingly different meanings. The first meaning of scabrous is having a rough surface because of minute projections. Something like the skin of the fruit lychee. Another meaning, which doesn't seem to be connected at all to the first meaning, is scandalous, obscene, and the like. A scabrous book. One may remember the famous novel by D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's Lover, which was banned in Europe for its quote-unquote indecent content. In order to remember these two seemingly diverse meanings of the word scabrous, I picture Lady Chatterley eating a lychee. That is how one can form narratives around words and try to form associations and keep them in one's own memory. One of the many ways of enriching your English vocabulary is to understand how affixes get attached to words to form new words. Affixes are of two types, prefixes and suffixes. Look at the expression mal. Mal in French is derived from the Latin word male, meaning bad. We have already seen the word malevolent. You may see how many words can be formed by adding mal to different segments of words. Coming to affixing, consider the prefix mono, which means one. And we can create several words by using mono as a prefix. Monolingual would mean a person or a society speaking only one language. Monotheism means the doctrine or belief that there is only one God. The suffix less means nothing or empty. Hence, words like mindless, penniless, and loveless are formed. In the CLAT, you may come across questions based on meanings, synonyms, and antonyms. Look at these questions. The first question asks you to find the meaning of the word aphorism. The answer is B, a short, wise saying. Question 2 is about synonymity. A stumbling block means something that obstructs or acts as a hurdle. Hence, the answer is option C. Another category of vocabulary question is based on antonyms or words opposite in meaning. In question 3, the word crestfallen means defeated. So the antonym should mean successful. Hence the answer is option B, triumphant. Questions on one-word substitution have appeared in the CLAT. Look at this example. The single word for a person who's bad in spellings is option A, cacographist. Option B, calligraphist means someone who is adept in the art of calligraphy. Philatelist means someone who's interested in collecting stamps. Cacophonic means noisy, full of unpleasant sounds. So the answer to the question, a person who is bad in spellings, is option A, cacographist. Idioms are expressions unique to every language. Idioms could be a group of words established by usage as having a meaning not deducible from those of the individual words. One cannot understand the idioms literally. Examine the example. We will cross that bridge when we come to it. It would mean, let's not talk about the problem right now. We will face it when we are confronted by the problem. Wrap your head around something means understand something which is quite complex. What I meant to say is that an idiom is an expression, the meaning of which is not obvious from looking at the individual words. One has to be familiar with the culture in which an idiom grows and flourishes. Some idioms are easy to understand. When you look at it, you will have a rough idea about its meaning. For example, keeping a lid on something might mean suppress it or control it. In the question, we see that the ruling party has been trying to suppress the news about the scam, but despite their efforts to control the news, it was out in the newspapers the very next day. The correct answer is option B, control. English spelling is quite puzzling, often intriguing. That could be the reason why in the CLAT you may come across several questions based on spellings. As I mentioned in the beginning, when you learn a new word, it is important to look at the spelling. In the question here, the correct answer is option B. the rest of the words are spelled correctly. Calamitous, charismatic, and clandestine. But the correct spelling of corroborate is C-O-R-R-O-B-O-R-A-T. Quite a few questions in the CLAT are based on English grammar. I would advise you to revise the grammar lessons that you had studied in school. Do concentrate on the following sections: tenses, subject-verb agreement, noun-pronoun agreement, active and passive voice, direct and indirect speech, and prepositions. In the CLAT, you may often come across questions based on error analysis. A sentence would be divided into 4 segments. You will have to point out the segment which contains the error. Look at the first example, which has 4 segments. The correct answer is option C. China and will yet again host a summit on June 2018. What is the error there? The error is in the use of the preposition. The correct preposition should be in. China and will yet again host a summit in June 2018. Look at the second question. Commercial banks does not have the capability to assess credit. The first segment itself contains the error. The verb should be do, not does, because commercial banks is a plural subject. So the error is in option A itself, and the correct expression would be commercial banks do not have the capability to assess credit. In order to score well in the fill in the blanks category, you need to know several principles of English grammar. Look at the first example. The robber, together with his accomplices, were arrested. It's a wrong answer. Because of this unique expression, together with his accomplices, the emphasis falls on the subject, which is singular, the robber. So the robber, together with his accomplices, was arrested. The answer is option A, was. Had the sentence been constructed differently? Look at this. The robber and his accomplices. Then the verb would be were. The robber and his accomplices were arrested. In the second example, the answer is whom. The officer whom I know helped me with this matter. The third question tests your knowledge of prepositions again. The newly appointed teachers complied to the instructions given by the principal. When you use words like comply, by default, the preposition would be to. The newly appointed teachers complied to the instructions given by the principal. So, revisit your grammar text from school and refresh your memory of the principles of English grammar and usage. I'm sure you will do very well in the CLAT English section. Thank you very much.